Thanks everybody for attending our talk today. I really want to thank Christopher Mifsud for taking the time out of his schedule to come here and be a resource for the people in our department. We've got a lot of students who are very, very eager to hear what you have to say, Chris. So I'm just going to introduce Chris based on his bio here. Christopher Mifsud is an accomplished leader in the video game industry, known for his extensive experience in video game design and development, with a career spanning over 25 years. He has led international teams for top-tier digital creative companies and driven the creation of high-profile products for brands such as Fox, Nickelodeon, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, and MTV. He is currently the CEO of Play Onward Studios, a narrative transmedia company based in Malta, as well as a consultant for other video game studios at Press Start Leadership. So thank you, and I hope everybody here can give a silent applause here for Christopher Mifsud. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew Kemp Wilcox, or as I like to call you, Andy.
Yeah,
No, thank you so much for having me here. Today's topic, we'll have plenty of time for questions around it, but I think Andy asked me to present something that might be useful to the students and to the faculty and so forth. And he's mentioned that he's shown a lot of you my appearance on Malta Shark Tank. My career is kind of spanned over 25 years, working for a lot of different companies. And every single one of those companies, I make what's called a one sheet. Let me see. Hopefully this works. Andy, let me know if you can see my screen.
I can. You look like you're doing it right.
All right, awesome. So today's talk will be from one sheet to pitch deck and beyond. So as I mentioned, I create a lot of one sheets, and I've done that for both my own companies, for other companies, and also for pitching ideas to for higher work as well. Andy actually used to help me with a lot of those back in the day. So what's a one pager? Basically, a one pager is a concise, high level brief of your game concept that quickly conveys the who, what, and why of your project. You need to emphasize what makes your game stand out and why it'll captivate players. And you can use your one pager for a number of things to pitch your vision quickly and effectively, ensuring that everyone on your team members knows what's going on along with potential investors, and basically allows people to grasp the game's essence at a glance. A one sheet will save you all a lot of time, and that's the main reason I really make sure to teach the studios that I coach and mentor, and anyone I chat to, I preach the strength of a one pager, because a one pager is going to save you time, and you should not even start making a game until you can do all the things that are in a one pager. A one pager basically allows you to decrease the amount of effort needed when, like, say you're presenting ideas to a client or your team or stakeholders. One pages are very quick to put together. You can put three or four of those together, present them, have people pick the ones they like the most. And then from there, expand on your either bigger, larger pitch deck, or as I'll go into, your game design document. But if you can't answer all the things that are in a one pager, you shouldn't even be starting development on anything. You're going to be wasting a lot of time, because I really do believe a one pager covers at least the base essence of what a game should be. So what's in a one pager? What's the anatomy of a one pager? Well, I like to start with the obviously the game title, the name of the game, but sometimes this could be a code name or a project nickname or whatever until you have the final game title. But once you do get the final game title, I do recommend updating your one pager with that. Your pitch, your elevator pitch, or I like to call it your coffee talk pitch. So it's a brief and engaging summary. Then your overview, which is a detailed description of the game's premise, followed by features, so bullet points, your key selling points and unique aspects of your game. And then you can add any visuals. Those are always optional, but it's always nice if you do have either some reference material or some concept art, or even if you have some key art, placing that into the document. The order in which people will read your document will not be the order that the things are in. So people will start with your pitch. They will then move to your features and look at the bullet points. And if they like that, then they will read your overview. Um, People don't like to read, and so you need to hook them with your pitch. You need to then entice them with your features, and then they will move back to the center area. But for formatting, it looks better when it's like this. So, how do you write an elevator pitch? Well, for me, I think it needs to be a succinct summary that hooks the reader in one or two sentences. It needs to be concise and clear. It needs to highlight the unique aspects of your game, and it needs to make it memorable and engaging. This is usually the only thing some people will hear about your game. And sometimes you won't have a lot of time. And this is why it's the elevator pitch, right? It's the amount of time you have from getting into an elevator with somebody important to their floor to pitch your idea. I also like to call it the coffee talk or the coffee line pitch, because a lot of times when you're at conferences like GDC or Gamescom, you'll be getting a coffee or picking up something in line, and you never know who you're going to meet. And when you're there, you have this from the time you're in the line till you get to the front of the line. If it's Starbucks, that could be a really long time. So you might have the ability to pitch your whole thing, but otherwise, you're only going to have like a couple sentences. And for me, my preferred, if you're just starting out, my preferred template is to give the game's name, the genre that it's in, a combination of a popular title and another popular title, so like Zelda and Super Mario Brothers, that adds a unique element of something in your setting, right? And so I'll give you an example of how I use it. But the idea here is, again, starting out by painting the picture. That's what your pitch is doing, painting the picture to the person that's listening to you that has no idea about anything about your game yet. So they're going to know your name. They're going to understand the genre, which helps paint the picture a little bit for them because they're going to hopefully understand those ideas. You're going to pick popular titles because, again, you want them to be able to reference very quickly what you're talking about and start again to put those pieces together. You're going to add a unique element, something that makes it stand out from those, that makes it go, I'm not asked the question, well, what makes that different than anything else? This answers that question. And then something about the setting, right? So again, helps, you're just kind of like, you're drawing all the lines there for them, and they're slowly able to paint in the picture there. So an example from actually the game that we're working on right now at Playward Studios. So it's basically it's Shadow City Mysteries, Clockwork Noir narrative adventure game that's Blade Runner by way of Lovecraft Country, set in Frank Miller's Sin City with a new game plus twist. Those words, when I say that to most folks, though they might not know exactly what I'm pitching, they have a pretty rough idea, and it gets them excited to hear more. All right. I use movie references because we're a narrative adventure game. You could use puzzle platformers, any kind of games. I know folks, Vampire Survivor, whatever you want to say, just kind of pick those things. And again, going back to this framework, game name, genre, popular title, unique element, your setting. When you have templates, it makes putting together these one sheets a lot faster and a lot easier to do as well. So very easy for anyone to do. So then I go to the features. You notice I'm not going over the overview because, like I said, people hear the pitch, then they go to the features, then they go to the overview in the middle. So, what are your features? Basically, they're the highlights, the key selling points, the innovative mechanics, and the unique aspects, right? They should be bullet points for clarity and impact. So you want to have a catchy title that says what it is, and then a little bit more of an explanation underneath, right? Again, specific and concise. Use your words, use them well. Focus on what makes your game unique, right? If it's not something that's super unique about your game or doesn't, like, don't put it in there. Like, if it's a given, it's a given. the way features used to be referred to is the back of a box. Like if you were buying a cartridge at a game store, the physical copy, which I don't think anybody does anymore, but if you still do, you would look at the back of the box, and the back of the box would tell you all these cool features, and this is like the key selling points of your game. So this is where that comes from. You find it to a lesser degree on Steam pages. Some Steam pages do the full features, kind of what you would consider the back of the box, but Steam pages mileage varies from company to company. So, and an example here, though it's kind of small to read, but so basically, our feature set for our game, it's Clockwork Noir, narrative adventure, 6 different origins, new story plus with a twist, detective skills and unique ability trees, new IP, future expansion and transmedia. A lot of these words are catchy words that people like to hear, and so that's why you pick them and put them in there. And then you give a little bit more explanation, but not a ton, because again, all your pitch document here, this one pager, is just to get people's attention and also to give you a basis to which to build upon. Remember, all these things that are here, you're going to talk about more in the overview, because again, elevator pitch, feature list, overview. It's all about keeping them continually to want to read more about what your game is about. So, your overview, right? The purpose is to provide more context and detail about the game's story, mechanics, and appeal, right? So, you want the basic story setup and genre, you want to cover the core gameplay elements, and you want to mention the target audience. And in some cases, you might even want to mention like the platform or even the engine you might be using, if you feel like that is a key selling point for who you're talking to. Like if you're talking to Epic and Unreal and you're trying to get a mega grant, maybe mention the fact that you're using the Unreal Engine. There's a lot of text, but again, basically what's being written here is a more fleshed out version of those key points, right? So Shadow City Mysteries is an narrative adventure game in which players take on the role of a down on their luck detective investigating mystery. Or is it a conspiracy? Or is it a supernatural thriller? In Shadow City Mysteries, players experience the story multiple times to discover a story and a world bigger than they suspected existed. As the player investigates scenes and talks to witnesses, they unlock new abilities, allowing them to learn more each playthrough. On PC and consoles, Shadow City Mysteries brings a fun, exciting, and original twist to the narrative adventure genre. With a variety of locations to investigate, mysteries to solve, and characters to question, Shadow City Mysteries creates a great new IP for fans of the genre. New mysteries, new stories, and new platforms add to the potential for future expansion and transmedia beyond the initial release. So basically, all this overview does is just give a nice, fleshy paragraphs for the key features below and a little bit more detailed. So, how to use a one pager. All right. So, one pagers are great for investors and publishers when you don't have a lot of time to run through a full pitch, right? A one pager is one page. Full pitch is anywhere from like 12 to 20 slides, depending on who you're pitching it to. Publisher could be about 20 slides, investor about 12. Um, Publishers, you're including more details about all the different features and gameplay. Investors are kind of just looking at the numbers and how much money they're going to make off of you over 5-10 years. You can use it to engage the media. Once you have a one sheet and you've gotten to a point where if you're pretty happy and you don't mind showing it to the public, it's great for giving a snapshot for press releases or media coverage. If you're trying to recruit and trying to get new team members, it's a great way to basically summarize your vision to potential collaborators. Gotten basically, Andy knows them. Two of my team members, part of the reason I was able to get them was the one pager and how I pitched it. So it helps. It really helps. So having a solid vision and being able to show that to other people gets them onto your team. And for guiding development, right? So it helps keep your team aligned with the core vision. It's good because it's a good point if you've ever heard of pillars. It's a good point for starting with your pillars and getting an idea, right? You can always go back to the one page, and if it changes, it changes. But it's a good place to keep you continuously looking at the right vision. So where do you go with from a one pager? Well, you either go to a pitch deck if you need to pitch it, or you go to the GDD. But we're going to go to the pitch deck, right? So there's a lot of reusable components in a one pager that you'll use over multiple slides in your pitch deck. So those reusable components are the elevator pitch, right? And that goes on your intro slide of the game, which I'll show you in a second. The overview can go in the overview slide for sending out. I don't recommend using an overview slide when you're presenting, but if you're not going to be present for the slide, I do recommend sliding the overview slide in so people have something to read to give them context. And then you use each of those features as separate slides to give more details and more talking points within your presentation. So an example from my pitch deck, this is basically the intro slide. And intro slides are great because they should be at the very front of your pitch deck, and it allows a investor, it allows a publisher to see if you check all the boxes they need right away. Because a lot of times publishers, not so much investors, because they'll need to see more details, but publishers usually have certain things that they're looking for. They want to know when your game's going to release. They want to know what platform, what genre, who your target audience is, amount of gameplay, and a lot of these things as they check off boxes, because everybody you're talking to, because their time is limited, is always looking for a no, not a yes, a no. So as soon as they see something that's a no for them, they can move on and get time back from their lives and leave you alone. But if they see all the yeses, then they'll continue wanting to see more. So it's just polite to have all this stuff up front. But as you see over here, we have the elevator pitch goes here to kind of just hook them in. And then they go, ooh, I want to know more. So you either give them more. If they're reading it at their office, they'll read the overview pitch. Generally, the way I do it is I talk through this slide, I read this, I hit the new game plus twist, I explain the new game plus twist, which usually also covers most of the stuff that's in my overview. The overview, again, I only include if I'm sending it out for people to read. If I'm presenting, I skip it. You don't want this much text on a slide for a pitch deck when you're presenting. When you're handing it off, it's fine. But most people will tell you to eliminate as much text as possible in a pitch deck. People don't read, sadly. And then, like I mentioned, you could go through your different aspects of the feature list. So we cover our core gameplay, we cover the different things that you do. Another thing we mentioned was our detective skills, other things, more details. Again, all comes from the one pager. And then we mentioned character origins and abilities. Again, comes from the one pager. We just expanded out. And we mentioned new IP and brand. Again, comes from the one pager. Basically, the one pager is like a skeleton for your pitch deck. There are other slides that need to go in, but again, it's a great starting point for that. Besides for your pitch deck, it's a great starting point for your GDD. You basically gamer review could be expanded from the one pager, right, to give more details. Your game mechanics, right? You need to give all those things that you listed in your one page. You're going to need to give detailed descriptions of for the core mechanics, the controls, the systems. So again, it's a good skeleton for your GDD. Story and characters, you can give in more in-depth narrative, character bios, dialogue samples, art and sound, the visual style, art direction, sound design. But again, you reference that one pager, right? Keeps it consistent. Levels, environments, descriptions of games, technical specifications, UI, UX, monetization and marketing. If you mention anything like we're a premium game, we're a free to play game, we're a premium game with DLCs, all of that falls into your monetization and marketing. And then other things is it could also help with your production schedule because you've now moved from, and you're going to need your production schedule for your pitch deck anyway. So pitch deck, GDD, and then if you've built out any schedules, your GDD, all the things that are in there need to be built at some point in time. So it just kind of builds out your production schedule from there. So you'll have your pre-production, your production, your milestones, your testing, your launch, and your post-launch if you're going to have anything like that. So that's that. Try to keep it a little short so that we can answer questions and go into any other details besides pitch decks and or one sheets.
Thank you, Chris. While we're going to get some questions in, anybody who wants to throw some questions in over in the chat, I'll pull from those and ask. But I wanted to start with just one quick question, Chris.
Yeah.
That might not be quick because I think it might be complicated, but I've got a lot of students who are seniors. They're looking to get
Mhm.
out right now into the business. And obviously, every time you open any game development news over the last like 18 months, it's been pretty bleak when it comes to jobs. I was curious what you are seeing out on the ground and what you think the industry is heading in the next, say, 6 months, and how can our students put themselves in a good position to react to the new landscape.
Ooh, I was hoping not for that question. All
I'm
right.
sorry.
No, yeah. I mean, it's a grim reality right now. I don't want to say the industry is course correcting because I don't like that term because I feel like that puts aside the fact that there's a lot of really talented people right now that are out of jobs, and weren't expecting any of this, right? I mean, I think we could look at the industry and we can say, okay, there was a boom, and then we were printing money during COVID, and a lot of people made some bad business decisions, not realizing that we wouldn't be able to keep up with that boom for whatever reason. I don't know why they made a decision. Anyway, the lesson to be learned here is that making video games is both a creative endeavor and a business endeavor. Um, and the how yeah, it's tough. It's one of the things I have to teach. I have to teach a lot of the startups that I work with is the business side because everyone loves making video games. We all love making video games. Video games are great, but there's money that's involved, and the more money is involved, the higher the risk it gets there, and so the expectation of the turnaround on that is pretty high. Now, I do think at GDC. So let me just talk about. So it's 6 months, Andy? That's tight. But I do think I think 2026 is going to get a little bit better. So the thing is this, there people have money right now. They do have money, and there is money going out. It's just the expectations on the industry of what you were able to get away, what you were able to present to get money 4 years ago was a lot easier. You could just show up with a pitch deck. You wouldn't even have to have a prototype or vertical slice. Now vertical slices, almost finished games are almost required to get publishers, right? And the publisher dynamic to the indie dynamic is changing quite a bit too, because if a publisher isn't going to give you money to make your game, and you almost have to like make the game entirely, at the end of the day, what does the publisher provide? Is it just marketing? Is it that dynamic's changing quite a bit as well. And a lot of folks are finding a lot of success. Doing self-publishing. And there's a lot of folks that are coming out of the publishing space because publishers are also collapsing, not just studios, with skill sets, and it's more bespoke, kind of like boutique skill selling, right? And so I feel the market's moving more towards a like a movie setup where you don't have studios that are fully have like 300 people as much anymore. I think you'll find that a lot of studios will have some core team members, and then there's going to be a lot more contract and freelance work. That's I don't see that not being the case going forward. I think you're going to see fewer giant studios, and a lot more smaller boutique studios. That and it. I think I'll how to say this the nicest way possible. So I really hate this question, Andy. But
You're doing a great job with it, though.
yeah,
You
the truth of the matter is this is you might as well be a contractor and a freelancer because technically, even if you get hired by your company, you actually are that anyway. Because right to work states and the ability to fire you on a dime happens anyway. And I think if you're in the smarter sense of being a contractor and a freelancer, you at least are always conscious that you could basically not have a paycheck the next week, and it puts you in a smarter way of keeping your finances and keeping your self-awareness. I've seen too many people think, "Oh, I've got a job, I've got a contract. This means it's forever." It's not, guys. Sorry, I hate to tell you this. Like, the dynamics of the workforce is if there's money in, there's going to be money out, and if there's no money in, you're out. So, and this is speaking as someone who's been laid off in the industry 5 times, and have moved all over the world because of that, and that's been great because I did that. But the reality is that this is a thing. So I do believe that working from home will return back once people realize that, again, get over this whole like have to get people in, make cogs in the factory, because we don't make cogs. We make creative endeavors, and video games are one of the easiest things actually to make remotely. With occasional bring. So I don't know. I'm gonna rant on this. So I have a lot of thoughts on these things. But the following funny thing is pre-COVID, everyone used to do offsites, right? Where like you were always working together, and the only way you could get peace and quiet together is to do an offsite where you would get everybody and you would take them out of the office to have these short meetings or whatever. And then like we got COVID and everyone's like, oh, this actually works pretty well. But then people were like, oh, but we need people to have on-site all the time. But I actually think you could do the work from home situation and occasionally have those offsites technically on site where you get everybody together. And that will serve the same purpose of energizing those juices and keeping people connected and so forth. But the future, freelance contract. It's and then be very open. Also set your sights a little bit lower from those big companies because they're looking for people with very specific skills and not generalists. And I think early on, the best thing you're going to be able to provide is generalist skills and abilities. And that means working for smaller companies that are going to need you to wear a lot of hats. And Andy and I both started at a very small company. We wore a lot of hats, right? We had titles, but we wore a lot of hats, right? Like we didn't actually have a producers. I was the producer, but I was the lead designer, and I was also the sales guy and a bunch of other things, right? So like I think it's actually you're going to get better skills and better abilities from doing all those kind of things. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
freelance
I
itself.
think that's a great answer to that question.
Sorry, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, I do want to also say before we move on to our next questions, because we've got several coming in chat, that you are still sharing your screen.
Oh,
You want
yeah.
to know that
Okay.
we would love to see your face.
Really? All right. Hold on a second. Now I just got to remember. Oh, because it's over here. That's why. There we go. All right. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry.
About the pitch decks and the one pagers, question here from Chad is: do you think it's okay for indie developers, especially I think ones who are getting started, to use AI imagery in the game pitch to create a mood board to receive funding, because they may not have the budget yet for artists?
Uh, I'm torn on that. I do. So I'm not totally anti AI. I don't like it in the sense I would never use it in a final project, right? But I do see the usefulness of. So that being said, I pre AI, lots of people in pitch decks instead of having like using um art that their team made or whatever, a lot of times they'll go and grab like movie scenes and clips and so forth and do collages of other people's work. Technically, AI is kind of the same, so I think it's fine in limited usage. I don't think, to be honest, an investor will probably love it because they're so geeked up on AI, whether it's actually useful or helpful to anybody at all. But they're like throwing money at it right now. It's like Doge coins from back in the day and NFTs. So that's a moral choice. You get to make that one on your own. But I don't think it's necessarily bad. Obviously, like I like again, I use AI for a lot of different things, but I would never use it in my final product. But I do use it to get ideas. I do it for putting together things that I can't necessarily do, but then I hand it over to an artist who hates me for it, and then they make their better version of it. So I don't know if you want art. Okay. That's another tough one. I think obviously if you're a startup and you're an indie studio, you do everything you can to get by, right? You cut corners, you think smarter, right? You work smarter, not harder. But at the end of the day, do you realize that all generative AI is stealing at this point? There is There is no moral AI out there. So currently, hopefully soon. I do know a few, actually, this is true. I do know a few private companies that do AI for like Coca-Cola and stuff like that, but they're pulling from Coca-Cola's like stuff, right? Like they're using all of Coca-Cola's backlog of art to produce new Coca-Cola imagery for like mock-ups and things like that. So in that sense, sure, they own it, whatever. But yeah,
So there's a question that's building off of that first one. In addition to the visuals of your game, how important is it to have thoughtful design of the documents themselves, like color, background, images, bullet points, about how getting your readers to feel about your idea?
they don't care. So I hate to say this again. It's so I'm doing a narrative adventure game. My original pitch deck was a lot longer and had a lot of narrative in it. And every publisher I showed it to, it's like, we don't care about your story. Um, they were basically like, what's the point? How are you going to make money? What makes your game unique? You're a narrative game, you're a game, we assume you have a story and we hope it's good. Now eventually they'll want to see it, right? In your GDD and everything like that. But in your pitch deck, they don't care as much. It actually made me cry a lot, and it made me sad to have to tell like folks that I coach and I mentor, like, get rid of that entire like 5 slides of stuff that you thought was really cool and people want to know about the background about your character, because they don't. Like they do want to see cool imagery. So like if you mood boards, if you show like a setting, if you have an idea of like what's there, make it, as help them paint the picture. Because remember, your pitch deck, when you go through the pitch deck, you don't have a final game yet. Like you're having to use every slide to kind of describe what's there, but also realize it's a time. I know I saw somebody has like a time question too. So like it's a time thing too, right? People don't have time, usually when you're pitching to them. So even when they set up a meeting with you for 30 minutes, you don't have 30 minutes, and I'll go into it for the next with the question there. But yeah. Um, but yeah, concise. Like I use that word a couple times. Be as concise as possible. Use your words really well, and realize that every slide you have, is it useful for conveying what you need to, or are you wasting your time and their time with that slide? That my decks used to be started ginormous and slimmed down as much as possible whenever I could. So
Okay. Actually, this next question I think is relevant to what you just were saying. So this is someone was saying, how long should you spend on a pitch presentation? Like
yeah,
about concise, right? About
yeah,
you know, the balance between hitting all your points but wasting someone's time.
100%. 5 minutes. Practice 5 minutes. Um, So when I was as I was on Shark Tank, they had me send in a video, which I thought was supposed to be my pitch. And they said I had 3 minutes. So I did my pitch in 3 minutes. And because I did my pitch in 3 minutes, they didn't told all the other contestants they had to pitch their game, or they weren't doing games, they were doing other ideas in 3 minutes. And it was originally 5, so I made it worse for everybody else because I was able to do it in 3. The faster you can do your pitch, the better, while still being concise and being able to express your idea. The idea is, and there's a reason for this, right? And a lot of pitch competitions will be 3 minutes. I've done pitch competitions that are 3. I've done pitch competitions that are 5. Uh, the idea is this, though, right? So when you're at a show, let's say you go to GDC and you've got the meet the match system and you've set up all these meetings. You get 30-minute blocks, and in those 30 minutes you don't have 30 minutes, right? Because if you're at GDC, chances are you're running from one hotel to another to go pitch your idea to somebody, because nobody's in the same hotel. Why would they not all be in the same location? But they're not. So you're running from the W lobby to the Hyatt, down like 3 blocks over, right? So you lost 5 minutes there, right? Now chances are you also lost 5 minutes because you left your last meeting 5 minutes early, so you could be mostly on time to the next meeting. Now chances are the other guy's doing the same thing, a guy or girl, doesn't matter. Everybody's there, and then you're running, and you get new shoes too when you go to GDC. By the way, if you're doing this, because you're gonna be running a lot. You get there, so you've lost 5 minutes already, right? So now you have 25 minutes. minutes. So now you have 5 minutes to present the pitch. You do quick introduction, so maybe you lose another 5 minutes. So now you're at 10. You got 5 minutes to pitch your idea to the person, right? Now you want to leave time for them to ask questions or for you to ask questions about them too, right? So you can make the most out of that meeting. No time at all. So now you're 15 minutes. You had 5 minutes for questions. They had 5 minutes for questions. Now you're running off to another one. That's why you want to keep it down to 5. If you spend 10 minutes on your idea, talking, whatever, remember, your pitch is like a resume. It doesn't get you the final deal. It gets you to the next meeting, right? It's the idea is that you're just trying to get to the next date. It's the first date that gets you to the next date, which is hopefully way better than the first date. So the idea is just to get them to want to talk to you again, right? So you're not going to cover everything. In fact, if you try to cover everything, you're probably going to confuse them because remember, they're walking to their next meeting and they're going to be talking to somebody else and they're going to forget almost everything. So you want your pitch to be concise and memorable. You don't want it to be like conflagrated and confusing and all this other stuff. So concise, right? And Andy could teach you concise. I know this because he's a writer, amazing one, and he's written some really good concise stuff. So if you have questions about
Thank
concise,
you for the unsolicited plug. Um, so here's the next one. As someone who's thinking about putting together an indie team, how
Mhm.
would a new indie developer search for investors or publishers? Do you have a suggestion of online places or conventions to build a network of developers and business partners?
Yeah. Oof, we don't have that much time. So GDC for sure. So you're in the United States. So locally, I would look for and you're in Arizona, not too far away from Texas. So I know Andy's mentioned to me before that Arizona doesn't have a huge gaming industry there, but like you are close enough to other ones. And if you're open to remote, a lot of people are. So that's a good way to take a look at building a team, especially as an indie team, right? Again, making games does not necessitate you to have to all be um, in the same spot. Now, granted, it does mean again working from home. You do have to have a certain level of maturity, and you do have to like do the work and you know that. But if you have the right mindset for it, it's a great way to go about things. GDC is great. In Europe, it's Gamescom. There's a million and one other shows throughout the year, so keep an eye on that. The how to market your game .com. So there's a guy who runs how you market your game. He has a Discord. He has a great list of all the events that are going on throughout the year. So check out that. Um, Oh man, there's so many things I could tell. Like, so go to these events. Go to if there's a local IGDA community. I don't know. Do you guys have IGDA in Arizona? You probably hopefully have a branch of it
There is a
there somewhere.
Phoenix branch of it. It's fairly small.
Sure, but that's how it is. But you know how it gets bigger? Showing up to it,
Yep.
right? So having people go to those things, supporting each other. Game jams, great way to make meet team members and find other folks. So if you're doing the global game jam, if you have other groups that are doing the global game jam, another great resource for meeting folks. Um, Man, for investors though, okay, take a step back. Very hard. So video okay, if you're making a platform or a utility for games or technology for games, you'll find investors. If you're a game company, very hard. Games I trust me, I know this one. Game studios are very not investable because games are very hit or miss, and what investors are looking for is something that's scalable. And yeah, you can come with them with the greatest IP idea, whatever, but to them, they don't understand that part, right? What they understand is like, how do I scale this 100 times? And then how do I offload this to sell it to another company? So that's going to be difficult. Not impossible. Um, JPAL, the PAL group.com is a group. They have a email list. I was just sharing actually, do I have it available here? Hold on a second. Am I allowed to give you all these things? I don't even know. I'm gonna do it anyway. All right.
I think you're allowed.
All right. I was just sharing this with one of the guys that he owns a company in Toronto, and I was sharing this with him as well. Uh, All right. Am I going to find it as fast for you all as I found it for him? Hopefully. Subscribe now. All right. Anyway, okay. I'm going to give this to Andy later on. Sorry. I don't want to. I know we're kind of. I'll give it to Andy. Andy will share it with y'all. This list will be basically it has all the publishers. Well, not all the publishers. It has a lot of publishers and there's a lot of investors. And so you'll be able to like basically cold email, which isn't the greatest. I'll tell you right now, cold email, it's like shotgunning something. It's a numbers game. Have a really solid pitch deck, have a really solid, like really nice, impressive pitch deck. You might stand out in all the emails that they get and they might look at it or whatever. What you really want is warm introductions. But what that does is it allows you to create an Excel sheet with all their names, all their contact info, and you can start keeping track of all the people you're reaching out to. And then you can also like go on LinkedIn and kind of Google some stuff, Google that. Go on LinkedIn, you put their names in, put the company's names in, look up the people who are in charge of scouting, look at the people who are in charge of the business development, connect with them. You might not, they might not, but what I always tell you is like, it's my least favorite quote in the world, but it's the Wayne Gretzky one: is you miss all the shots you don't take, right? So at least reaching out and is the only way you're going to get exposure. It's the only way you're going to get noticed. Now, the best thing to do is if like you looked on somebody like you connect with me on LinkedIn, which feel free to do. Um, and you look through my 16,000 connections on LinkedIn and you see somebody that you're like, oh, I'd like to connect. You could always ask somebody like myself and say, hey, could you make an introduction? I could do a warm introduction. That's the best way to like meet and find new people as far as investors go. Publishers, same thing. But publishers right now are looking for vertical slice minimum and even a little bit further than that. So, until you get to that point, if you don't have any experience and you don't have a team that's had like 20 years of experience and actually made other projects or whatever, it's a really hard sell. And like, again, everyone's super risk averse right now. So everyone's looking for how do you minimize your risk? And sadly, indie games. Now, the great thing is indie games usually cost very low. But again, like I said, there's a ton of folks out there that are helping support indie games in different ways. So maybe not in the full sense of like a publisher giving money, but the biggest problem right now for everyone globally is getting seed money or early money to do your prototyping and your vertical slice. Like it used to be something that you could get money for. Now it's really hard to do. And it's just a huge challenge for everyone. So look at grants if you can. I know the United States isn't actually great for that, and right now probably not great at that at all. So so then you're going to be talking to VCs and so forth, right? But again, I'll share that link to Andy to share with the rest of you all for the PAL group, or you could go to the palgroup.com, that, and then try to find, I just saw it earlier. I just can't. Oh, no, wait. I can find it. I know where it is because I put it in the chat for somebody. Hold on. I got y'all. Here we go. There we go. There. I knew it. Think about it. That link in the chat. Put your email in there. You'll get a huge list of publishers and investors. JPal runs the indiegamebiz.co. It has a really good group too in Discord. So I recommend that. And I also recommend how to market your game.com, another good Discord. If you're not an indie, if you're just getting in the industry. And then there's like a million mail lists you all should be on and reading every day. There's one that provides like the weekly top Steam games. You should be looking at that. So it's fact for you: 19,000. What? No, sorry, 190,000 Steam games last year. So keep in mind, like it's a lot of games coming out every year too. So the competition's fierce, right? But I mean, not to dissuade you all. It's just bring your A game is all I'm saying. I know you got it, so bring it. That's the key. Um, can't all get away with 8-bit graphics. Another question you got there, Andy.
Well, I was going to say the next question is just about asking how applicable this information you've been giving on pitching is for physical board and card games. Do you
100% the same
market at all?
Same. Yeah. I mean, we actually did a backer kit for our tabletop RPG that's based in the same game in the same world. Basically setting up how I put together our backer kit page was the same thing, right? Feature list. Now, uh, for backer kit, because you're trying to get people enticed, I would say give more information, obviously. My team was maybe a little too wordy, but you know, I can't help it, so it's all right. But like I actually did I was told actually by some folks in from backer kit so forth, they're like, maybe you should shrink down the text a little bit, but I mean, think about it the same way, right? Like, if you ever go on Kickstarter or BackerKit, and you look at any of the games that are up there, Game Found, whatever platform you want to use, again, it's overview of your game, key features, not a ton of detail, but enough to entice people. Again, elevator pitch is really key, right? Because that's going to be the stuff that goes if you do any kind of ad spend, to try and get people, and you're gonna have to spend on ads. I hate to tell you, it's like organic is not a real thing. Like it's a thing that we tell everybody about, and it does kind of happen, but real marketing involves actually spending dollars at some point. So because that's how those platforms are sadly designed. They're designed for you to give the money so that they can promote you and show you to people. Now, get really good at learning about who your well, again, who your audience is, like what their interests are, and so forth. So when you're doing those ads, you're not just sending it out to everybody in the United States. You're sending it out specifically to people who like Kickstarters and like board games and like this, right? So you're targeting. So um, any games you get to learn, doing any games you get to learn a million different skills that you never thought you'd learn. So
And like you
yeah.
said, a lot of hats.
A lot of hats, a lot of
Yeah.
hats.
All right. So one last question here. This maybe you only have about 10 minutes left. So, but this question is about walking you, or can you walk us a little bit through your creative process from going from the idea for a game to something that's developed? I think for some students that seems like a really long hallway.
It is a long hallway. Yeah, it's like if yeah, I mean, you're all too young for that. I was gonna say if you ever watched that Fat Boy Slim, is it Fat Boy Slim? What was the
Christopher Walken's Fat Boy Slim.
Christopher Walken's, right? Wasn't that Fat Boy Slim? Right? Yeah. Anyway, where
That
he's
is
in
a
the
very old reference.
it's a very old reference. I realize that now. I was telling somebody about my favorite video games the other day, and they're like, "What game?" I was like, "That was before we were born." I'm like, it's not talking about Pong, guys. They're like, might as well have been. So, my creative process. So, man, all right, I do I do a lot of meditating. I do a lot of meditating. Actually, I do a lot of walking and a lot of thinking. I spend a lot of time thinking, and the for me to create like I try to make sure I have a recorder or someplace to like put like phones are great now, right? Like you can record it. Anytime I get an idea, I record it, and then if I record a lot and I don't want to transcribe it, I use like Otter AI or something like that to transcribe for me, and then I'll actually use ChatGPT to clean that up, right? One of the few places where I actually think ChatGPT is fine, right, for cleaning up things that you've already done. Um, then from there, I put all the ideas together. I work with a very collaborative sense. So, and for me, when I work with my team, I definitely take the whole idea of improv, right? So it's like yes and my team kind of gets upset with me sometimes because I'll throw in new ideas that don't make any sense, and I'm like, that doesn't mean that we have to rule it out. We just have to find a way to make it work. And so, but at some point in time, you do have to like close the close the doors on certain things, right? I think Andy can remember like my favorite thing was getting the team together, and I do this all the time, and just go crazy. I know what the box is, so I'll let the team go crazy and come up with as many crazy ideas as possible, and I'll do it too. But then, like, because of the producer in me and the business person in me, I know what the limitations are. So I go, we can't do all that. But then I go, okay, but how do I fit that into the box? And then I bring it into the box, and then I shave off a little bit here and there, and then I keep working on it. But I kind of expand and I keep track of everything. But I also keep in mind that not every idea is going to make it in, but I still hold to the graveyard of good ideas. So like you're going to have a billion ideas and not all going to make it in, and some of them aren't actually always going to fit the thing that you're working on. And I think keep track of those because they might not be right now, but might be useful later on. And I think as a game designer, game developer, whatever, you're going to build basically like a toolbox of things, right? It's the same thing as an improv artist, right? Improv artists aren't good at improv. They're good at practicing improv, right? And so that when they get thrown something spontaneously, they're like, duck. I don't know any duck jokes, but I know a bunch of goose jokes. I could change it, right? And then they just kind of on the fly, and everyone's like, oh my God, this guy's so smart. No, not that. They practice, right? And so I think practice, putting in the reps. That was one of my favorite terms that I worked with a environmental artist, and he was just like, these guys that are new, they just got to put in the reps, and once they do, they get better at it. And I mean, when you're first starting out, everything seems like huge or whatever, and after you just get a little bit of experience and put the time in, and it's not a ton of experience, it's not 10,000 hours. You're just doing it every day or whatever, right? Play games, play lots of games, see what people are doing right, what you like, what you don't like, right? Um, and just kind of like keep developing it out. Fully developed game though, it takes commitment. It takes a plan. It takes sticking to your. So I have a very strong philosophy of I think you can build anything with the right plan, the right team, without going over time, without going over resources or whatever. You just have to know when to say good enough. And I think part of the problem with game designers and developers is we're artists at the heart of it, right? And so because we're artists, we want everything to be perfect. Thankfully, I don't ever want everything perfect. I'm good. You have to learn what's good enough, and I think that takes a lot of work and effort to get to. But once you learn what's good enough, it makes developing a whole game, especially on your own or with other people or whatever, easier. You just have to say that's good enough. We have to move on, right? It's just I see this happen all the time. People are like perfection, 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 or not even perfection. Just we could do a little bit more. We could do a little bit more. We do like scope creep, things like that, right? So just get into the habit, practice, make a game, make one game, make a small game. Do that, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. I made over 100 games now. I think I have a quote on YouTube somewhere where somebody said I made over 1,000. I've not made over 1,000 games. It misheard me somehow, but he put that as the title of a YouTube interview. But anyway, over 100 games though. But you got to just keep doing it.
All right, we only have a few minutes. I think if you can be concise, I think was your word. I just like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you can
yeah,
give
yeah. I could do. I
some
could
on
do
this.
6 minutes. I got 6 minutes.
What's the best way to figure out what feedback to actually implement from your players without risking losing players that might not agree?
Yeah. So the key on that is make, and I answer this question for a lot of folks, so don't worry, I got this one concise. Make sure that the feedback you're getting is from actual players who play your type of game, right? Knowing who your target audience is super important. When you're doing play testing, when you're doing anything, make sure that the feedback you're getting is from somebody who actually plays your game. Now, also keep in mind that chances are you're only getting qualitative data, not quantitative data, right? So if you had 10 players and they all told you the same thing, that's not 100% of your players, right? That's not how that works. It actually means that a large portion of your players actually feel that way. So it might mean that it's probably a good idea maybe to listen to that or whatever, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't listen to outliers like one person who has an idea or whatever. But ultimately, what you should be listening to is your gut, right? In my opinion, data is just there to verify your gut or to tell you whether your gut was wrong, right? That's it, right? But I am very much of the mindset that you should always trust your gut as a designer, and go with that. If your numbers tell you otherwise, you might see, but you can't please all the people all the time. I think Bob Marley said that. So, there's that as well.
Okay, I think this is going to be our last question. Are you seeing any trends in other industries that align with the gaming industry? For example, training methods or technologies from game dev that have influenced other fields or similar trends across multiple industries?
Uh, um, I used to work, I used to, so yes, I'll hit it is the big one right now. And is the better that Unreal Engine gets and even Unity to a degree. Fashion industry. They bought Clo Marvelous, right? So Marvelous Design and Clo, which are used by Adidas and H&M. I know this because I worked with them to do this, their pipeline. So you're seeing that and they're doing virtual showrooms. Cars too, right? like you're getting realistic cars, you're getting realistic paint, right? From shaders and everything like that. So the better this in WebGL. So eventually, like all this 3Ds, whatever, is going to get easier and easier to put on the web, and people are going to be able to show off like 3D models of cars or whatever. And then sadly, with the virtual twinning, right? So that's the other thing that's really big. Again, using Unreal technology and so forth. So creating, the my controller in 3D, and then using it for ads and so forth, like that. So marketing, right? But it's blurring. And then of course the other one being film, right? Like even when I was working at Disney, I remember when they were doing the first Doctor Strange movie, they had actually built a number of the sets virtually. And they put a VR headset on the director, and he was like, "Oh my God, you guys built out the entire set already?" And they're like, "No, this is just in 3D. We're showing it to you so that we don't spend all the money, right? Like physically to build out the set, that we're able to show it to you virtually first, right? So I mean, there's a lot of like great applications across the board that are using basically the same principle, the same technology, same principles that you see in games there, right? So that, I mean, I spent, a year and a half working with 3D production pipelines that had nothing to do with video games and had solely to do with making clothes and cars and other practical things. Not that video games are practical; they're probably more practical than a lot of things are. But yeah,
Guys, Christopher Mifsud, thank you so much for giving us your time today. I know it's late in Malta, so
it,
thank you for sparing your time. Thank you for all these amazing insights. I know that our students really, really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
yeah, no problem. Did you get enough? I hope you all got credit, if anything. Hopefully,
I
it
know
just
I
gives you
have to
credit.
do it's a percentage. I got to do the
I
math,
I
but
hope I hope it just gives you credit anyway. That's what I would.